Today, we are very honored to have Simon as our speaker today. Simon is our Hong Kong U alumni. He holds an LLB and a PCL from the University of Hong Kong, alongside an LLM and JD from the University of Washington in St. Louis, where he was the first Chinese recipient of the Distinguished Alumni Award. And Simon is also the founder for CLECSS, one of the largest and most influential platforms for legal professionals in China. I know that Simon has also published widely on topics concerning legal education, legal profession, and career paths. I must say that Simon is a perfect candidate for our law and practice seminar series. So thanks so much, Simon, for agreeing to give us a talk. So today's talk consists of two sessions. The first one is presentation, lasting for 30 to 40 minutes. The second one is Q&A. So without further ado, I'm now handing the stage over to you, Simon.
Thank you so much for coming today. And as you can see from the PowerPoint, today's topic is navigating change, the transformation of legal market in Chinese mainland and Hong Kong from 2006 to 2026. And also the strategies for future-ready legal professionals. The reason why I chose this period is because 2006 is a significant year for me. It's the year when I graduated from the JD program in US. So after that, I've joined international law firms and have worked there for quite a number of years. And after that, I spent 1 year back in the United States to study my Master of Management at Stanford Business School, and then returning and come back and then work for a number of years as an in-house counsel. So the interesting part is that I witnessed what happens in the legal industry in the past 20 years. So I like to write articles on this, as you, many of you are I guess you're a reader of my blog, the CLECSS public WeChat account. How many of you are my readers of my WeChat account? Yeah, yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, and today I think I have published 4,299 articles, meaning that tomorrow will be 4,300. And thank you again for your support. And I hope you will enjoy my seminar today. I myself have an interesting background. As Professor Jin Kui just introduced, I first complete my LLB degree and also PCL at the University of Hong Kong. And after that, I become a solicitor in Hong Kong. It's very rare for a Hong Kong ULB holder to do another JD in US. It's very rare. I guess that in Hong Kong, there are less than 10 people doing this. But at that time, you know, when I'm still very young, I have a dream to study abroad. As you all know, I'm a Hong Kong local. I grew up here. And then I study high school, I study college here. I want to see the world. That's why I spent 3 more years in the United States. But there are lots of reward for my experience. At that time, there are lots of students from mainland China studying abroad. They are all tops from top law school, from top law firm. So I know a lot of friends who subsequently returned to mainland China or Hong Kong and to become lawyers of international law firms or reciprocal firms. And after many years, they now become partners of the law firm, and some of them shift in-house and becomes general counsel of those MNC or other big Chinese companies. So this is my biggest reward because they are now my source of information. That I can write a lot of articles based on what I heard from them. So this is, I think, my greatest reward for spending 3 more years in the United States. So I don't regret about making this decision to study JD in US. If we talk about the past 20 years, there are lots of interesting stories and a lot of happened in the past 20 years, including, I have selected 6 points to focus today. First of all, is the battle among the international law firms. As you know, in Hong Kong, there are lots of American and British law firms. And because of the history of Hong Kong, as you know, Hong Kong is a colony of Britain before 1997. So at that time, it's mainly dominated by UK law firms, like the Magic Circles, for example, Clifford Chance, Freshfields, Linklaters, Slaughter and May, and Overy, etc. Of course, there are some American firms like Baker McKenzie and Jones Day, but most of them, if you talk about those more well-established firms, they are mainly the UK firms. But later, since 2006, and a few years after that, so a lot of US firms they enter into the markets, and they become major competitors with those UK firms. So there's a change in the situation. That's the first point I will talk about in the later slides. And the second point is international firms against Chinese firms. As you know, when I graduated in 2006, when I returned to work for international law firms Hong Kong, I think most of the graduates, the LLM, JD graduates, they would choose international firms at that time because of higher pay. Obviously, this is what we call the global pay, or some even follows the Cravat rate, following the New York rate. So that's why everyone's go to international firms. But later, because of some change in position, like the financial crisis in 2008 and 2009, many people later have a second thought, and some change from the national firms to local firms. So this is the second point I want to talk about. The third point is about the merger and alliance of the law firms. When we talk about merger, there's mainly 2 types of mergers. First of all, is between US and UK. For example, you may have heard of Hogan Lovells. It's between American firm Hogan Hudson and the UK firm Lovells. And recently, we have a very important example of A.O. Sherman, the merger of Adam Overy and Sherman Sterling. So this is the merger between US and UK firm. This is also interesting. There's something very interesting in the past 20 years. And the other one is between international and Chinese firms. When I talk about internet, one most famous example is King & Wood Medicines, between King & Wood and Medicines, although they recently also announced split between them. And also Dentons, Darton with Dentons, this is another example. And again, they split a few years ago. So I will also talk about why they merged and why they split. The fourth point I want to talk about is globalization of Chinese firms. When I graduated in 2006 in the United States, there are already some office of the Chinese firms in the United States. For example, Jinhe and King & Wood has office in New York, and some even have office at Silicon Valley. And some Chinese firms also have office in London. And recently, a lot of firms are talking about whether they will open their office in Singapore. For example, in recent years, Han Kun and Banda opened office in Singapore. But again, these attempts by the Chinese firm, not all of them are successful. So I will also talk about the situation now, why they succeed and why they do not. And for the fifth point, I want to talk about some new business. So recently, as you know, in the past 20 years, there are lots of new business arising in the legal industry. For example, many years ago, like 15 years ago, people start to pay more attention to antitrust. But now at that time, antitrust is a blue sea area, but now it's no longer a blue sea area because everyone knows how to do antitrust. There are lots of teams in the law firms competing for similar business. But from time to time, there will be some new business in China. So for example, a few years ago, people started doing data privacy. But again, more and more people know about data privacy. So my point is that due to the evolution of new type of business, due to evolution of new legislation, new business will come out. So you have to understand about this new emerging business and better prepare for it. And my final point is, as everyone is now concerned about, is the evolution of AI. We are talking about how AI will impact the legal industry. And as a matter of fact, I think there are many law firms has already pays a lot of attention to this. They even hire some internal officer to take care of AI. So this, I think, will have a great impact on the legal industry in the future 10 to 20 years. First of all, I would like to start with the stories among the international law firms. When I graduated in 2006 and returned to Hong Kong, my first international firm is Baker McKenzie. And at that time, this Baker McKenzie is one of the very few American law firms that do well in the industry. And in fact, at that time in Hong Kong, it's mainly dominated by the magic circle firms I mentioned about. And even those silver circle firms like Herbert Smith, they're also doing very well at that time. And at that time, the reason why there are more and more American firms come to Hong Kong, as well as in mainland China, I think first of all, at that time, there's a boom of Hong Kong IPO at that time. So many American firms think that it's a good business. And in fact, if you later enter into the legal market, especially if you work in IPO, you will know that we often talk about Hong Kong side and US side. In the same IPO deal, we need a US lawyer to do the US side, such as drafting the prospectus. And there's also Hong Kong side. Hong Kong side is mainly, for example, dealing with Hong Kong Stock Exchange, answering the queries, analyzing the issues under the Hong Kong listing rules. For example, connected transaction. For this part, connected transaction is quite complicated. And American US lawyers may not know how to draft it. So it's mainly dealt by the Hong Kong lawyers. So because the US firm think this is a good business, so they start opening office in Hong Kong, recruiting some Hong Kong solicitors to work with them on some Hong Kong IPOs. One important example at that time is Nathan Watkins. Nathan Watkins entering into the Hong Kong market. They actually attract a number of lawyers from Allen Overy. And then work with them on some IPOs. And at that time, not many people have heard of Nathan Watkins. Although Nathan Watkins is the top US law firm in US, this is what we actually, in terms of revenue, is now second after Kirkland Ellis. But at that time, not everyone has heard Nathan Watkins, but Allen Overy is very famous in Hong Kong. So at that time, everyone was very surprised about the move. But later, people pay more and more attention to those US firms. For example, about 1 to 2 years later, Fried Frank, another top US Wall Street firm, also entered the market, and they took some lawyers from Simmons. So at that time, people heard about this news every day, and especially people are attracted by the pay offered by the US law firms. As you know, at that time, I think the US law firms offer about like at least 30% or 40% higher than Magic Circle, because at that time many of them offer per rate. At that time, per rate is not as high as nowadays, but still is very high. It's much higher than the UK solicitor or Hong Kong solicitor. So many of them are attracted by the high pay and then go to the US firms. And then this actually shift the position a bit, and then there are more and more US firms coming to the market, and then they become much stronger. Nowadays, if you talk about which law firms are good at IPO, sometimes we would say Davis Polk and Skadden, but at the same time, still some Magic Circle still maintains a good position in the markets like Clifford Chance and Freshfield, etc. But still, it's no longer solely dominated by UK firms, so that now the UK and the US firms strike a balance. The reason why UK firms still survive is that I think they are more localized. Many of them are more localized. Many of them have a flexible fee structure, and sometimes the billable rates of UK firms they're lower. I'll give you some examples. For example, in recent years, we noticed that some UK firms have some 联营所 in mainland China. For example, Clifford Chance have a 联营所 called 和平, and then Overy have a 联营所 called 朗月, and also Herbert Smith have one with Kerway, etc. So they because of this, they have better cost control. For example, if they put on a project, they sometimes can ask the associate in mainland China or in the affiliated firm to do some of the tasks, and this can reduce the cost. So and also, I think most UK firms have a longer commitment in Hong Kong and mainland China. For US law firm, the culture is that whenever they can earn money, they expand. If they find that they cannot earn money, then they just shrink their size or even withdraw from the market or even cut down the staff. So I think they have different culture. But anyway, I think nowadays, the US and UK firm, they strike a balance. So each of them have their own edge and advantage. So if after graduation, you can consider either US or UK firm. Of course, US firm generally offer more, but UK firm, sometimes people say that they have better training program. For example, they may have better templates at the law firm. So you can consider about US or UK firm. Next, I would like to talk about the battle between international law firms and Chinese firms. As mentioned, many years ago when we graduate, especially from USLM or JD, we want to get our tuition feedback. So that's why we would like to go to international law firms to get the so-called global pay. But now, but in the past 20 years, a lot have happened. I think the first critical point is the financial crisis in 2008 to 2009. At that time, some people are laid off, and it's difficult for them to find another job at another international law firm. So many of them actually seek some opportunity in Chinese firms. Many of them, for example, they are original senior associates of those international firms, and the Chinese law firms offer them title of partners. They give them some flexibility to build up their own business. So I think it's important because there's a flow of talents. In the past, the Chinese law firms, the quality in general, if you talk about the international standard, the quality is usually a bit lower than the international law firms. For example, when I work with some Chinese law firms at that time, usually I find that the agreements or the documents or templates is much shorter. For example, for the SPA, sometimes it can be like a few pages, but if you work for Magic Circle firms, you will realize that their SPA, the sale purchase agreement or share purchase agreement, it's like 50 pages, etc. The rep and warranties and undertakings, etc., are much more extensive. So, but the good thing is that the flow of talents from international firms to Chinese firms, they bring a lot of skills, documents, templates. Yeah, at that time, it's actually, I think some of the Chinese firms, and even the Chinese templates, they are translated from the English templates brought by the lawyers from international law firms. So anyway, they provide good skills, good document training, and even bring them with the client networks. For example, if they say, for example, a senior associate in the international firms, they have good relationship with vice presidents of iBanks. After several years, as both of them grow in their career, the previous VP now becomes a director, executive director, managing director. And then this Chinese law firm partner, and they also grow in the business, and then they can work together. So apart from the skills document, they also bring the clients with them. And gradually, this Chinese law firm can make themselves on the panel of these investment banks or other big companies. So the flow of talents have a very big impact on the change of position between Chinese firms and international firms. And also another point to note is the type of work and clients. In the past, for example, if you talk about the 2006 to 2010, at that time, there are a lot of FDI. For example, you may heard that, for example, at that time, some US firm like Jones Day, they have done a lot of, or Baker McKenzie, they have done a lot of FDI. And many of them are actually foreign companies or MNC, they want to invest into the Chinese market. And at that time, this kind of deal is usually led by the international firms. They would take a lead on it. For example, if the MNC want to invest in China, then they will engage international law firms. And the international firms will instruct the local Chinese firms to do, for example, due diligence, to write a legal opinion, etc. So at that time, the international firms earns most of the money, and the Chinese firms may take a more passive role in just writing the due diligence, legal opinion, etc. But now there's some shift of position. For example, now the traditional FDI, there are not too many traditional FDI deals in recent years. Instead, sometimes we often talk about Chuhai, right? Outbound investment. Now, many of them, the so-called clients are actually Chinese companies, either 国企 or 民企, either state-owned enterprise or some other big Chinese companies. They go overseas. So these are the clients of the Chinese firms. So sometimes the Chinese firms will take the lead in this kind of deal, and they would do the opposite way around. They would instruct the international firms or some firms in some overseas countries to do due diligence or legal opinion, etc. So there's a shift position due to the change of business and etc. So this is why the many of the Chinese firms, they later grew bigger, due to the skills and resources, etc. And I think another key point is the government policy is in favor of the growth of Chinese firms. As you know, in Hong Kong, the legal market is open. Open, when I talk about open, the good thing is that it's easy for international law firms to enter the Hong Kong market. So they create a lot of job opportunities for local lawyers. But something not good about it is that it actually suppressed the growth of local Hong Kong firms. And in Hong Kong, you know, the biggest one are like Deacon's and JSM. But when we compare international firms, their growth is a little bit, suppressed because the best talents are attracted by the national firms due to the high pay. But in mainland China, the market is not, it's generally not open. I mean, there are lots of restrictions for foreign law firms to practice in China. So because of this, I think the government policy has protected the growth of the Chinese firms, especially at the early stage. So I think this is one thing. The other thing is that in the past 20 years, the Chinese economy has grown a lot in the past 20 years. So I think it's a positive cycle. The Chinese firms benefit from the growth and they get more money and business. And as they get richer, they can attract more talents. And more talents meaning higher quality or high capacity to do the legal works. And in this case, they become stronger. So that's what I call 做大做强, becomes a big. And as you know, in China, in mainland China, there are now lots of very big Chinese law firms. Apart from the red circle firms, we generally talk about like Jindu, Junhe, Fangda, Zhongren, Tongsang, Jintian Gongcheng, Taiwan, Quanqiu, etc. And of course, Hanquan is also, although not strictly speaking, not red circle firms, but is quite equivalent to red circle firm now. But these kind of firms, they are big and strong, and they can compete with the international firms. Of course, there are also some other very big firms like Dacheng, Yingke, etc. They can also, they have also have their own business model to compete with international firms. And another thing is, of course, the flexible fee structure. As you know, if you're a US law firm, sometimes you have to follow the billable rate of the headquarters. For example, because you know how high is the pay of the big law, the Wall Street firms. This is because the billable rate is also very high. And sometimes even when you talk about the office in Hong Kong and mainland China, sometimes they have to follow the same billable rate. In this case, then it's difficult for them to compete a business because the cost will be very high. For UK firm, it's slightly better because the billable rate is not as high as US firm. But for Chinese firm, it's even more flexible, it's even better. So if you can deliver the same quality service, so why not? Why don't we just engage the Chinese law firms instead of international firms? Because the 性价比比较高, because so this is also one of the reasons why the Chinese firms, they actually gradually becomes much more stronger. And then the international firms at the same time, some of the business for national firms, they shrank. For example, if you talk about FDI, then we don't need to go to international law firms anymore because if you go to Fangda, etc., these firms, the lawyers are already come from international firms. They can deliver the same service, but with a lower cost. So if you do the same type of business, Chinese law firms, then many of the international law firms, they cannot survive. They cannot survive because people will go to Chinese firms for a lower cost. So if you heard about the market news in the past few years, some international firms, they close one or more office in China. For example, for Skadden Arps, they closed their office in Shanghai. And similar for Latham Watkins and Sydney Austin also closed their office in Shanghai. And some other firms, they could choose to close in Beijing. But overall, they think that it's okay to just to keep one office. They may not want to totally withdraw from the Chinese market. They want to keep a presence here, but they downsize it and also close one office in order to reduce the cost. So there's also, as the international law firms close their office, they accelerated the flow of talents to the Chinese firms. For example, if we For example, recently, you have heard in the recent 1 or 2 years, for example, firms like Hanquan, they took a lot of partners from international law firms. And actually, it's good for Chinese law firms because during the past 2 years, when the economy was not too good, they don't need to pay a premium to attract this talent to join the firm. They can just give them this partner title and then give them like 2 to 3 years to see whether they can do the business well. If they can, then they stay. If they cannot, then just say goodbye to them. Next, I would like to talk about the merger alliance in the past 20 years. As I mentioned, there are several types. Apart from mergers, there are also some alliance relationship like Baker McKenzie and Funsoon. I'll talk later. I'll go back to the first point for the US-UK firm mergers. The reason why the UK and US firms want to merge is that actually it's good for them to have both capacity. Just using the IPO example I mentioned, in Hong Kong, when you talk about Hong Kong IPO, you need both Hong Kong side and US side lawyers. For example, Allen Overy, they are UK or Hong Kong solicitors. They can do the Hong Kong side well. And for Sherman Sterling, they are US side. So they can do the US side well. So it's good to have both UK, Hong Kong, US capacity. And sometimes they can refer business to one another. And similar for Hogan Hudson and Lovells, etc. And the second point is international law firms and Chinese firms mergers. When King & Wood merged with Madison's many years ago, I think it's catch a lot of market attention. People want to see whether they will succeed in this merge. And my personal opinion is that I think the merger is good. It's good for them. At least for the first 10 to 15 years. At that time, because King & Wood, for example, King & Wood in Hong Kong, it actually comes from a local firm called Apuli Fong & Ng. At that time, the quality is not up to the standard of other international firms like Magic Circle. But once they merge with Madison, it's up to at least up to a standard of Australia law firms. So they bring a lot of documents, skills, templates, etc. I think it benefits a lot of the King & Wood office. And also for Da Cheng and dentists, I think it benefits Da Cheng a bit, especially in the first few years, is that dentists have a very big global network. And Da Cheng, as a local Chinese firms, they also have office everywhere in China. So they can have some cross referral, which I think is good. But later, after so many years, I think, as you know, last year or a few months ago, King & Wood Madison announced the split. I personally think that first of all, they have already benefited from each other in the past 2 years, and whether they continue this alliance or this merge, it does not matter too much. And I've heard that there may be some culture issue between the Chinese firms and Australian firms. So yeah, so this may be one of the reasons why they split. And for Da Cheng and dentists, yeah, I think they still remains a best friend. And if Da Cheng lawyers have some outbound investment, and if they have some good connection relationship with dentists, they can still refer business to dentists. So they, instead of working as one firm, they still maintain a good relationship. I think it's very difficult to totally integrate a Chinese firm with international firms because say for example, their culture is different, the billing rates are quite different. So So this is not that easy for a total integration. So I think so Alliance provide a good solution to this. For example, as you know, Baker McKenzie now is allied with Funsun. I think it's a very good alliance. Funsun can do a lot of local Chinese legal practice work at a much lower cost. For Baker McKenzie can also introduce some global clients to them. So the benefit Funsun. At the same time, if Baker McKenzie says any deal, then they can use the Funsun lawyers to carry out some of the works or tasks, and they can also generally lower the cost. And it's similar with Herbert Smith, Green Hills Primer with Kerway. And there are a lot of other examples. Even Freshfields, they recently have Raymond to work with them, and this provides some sort of flexibility. When they need to be a Chinese firm, then they call this a Chinese firm. If they have to be international firms, some deal, then they call themselves international firms. And next, I will talk about the globalization of Chinese law firms. And I think the first step of the Chinese law firm globalization is to open office in Hong Kong. Hong Kong, of course, is also part of China, but Hong Kong has a very unique history of a common law jurisdiction. So the first step is to open a firm in Hong Kong. But strictly speaking, if you talk about the first 10 years, like in 2006 to 2016, it is not as successful as what we think. Well, at that time, the size of the Hong Kong office is not that big. And also the quality is not that high at that time. Because many of them are local lawyers, they do not have the money to attract the best talents at that time. But it has recently improved a lot because one factor is the one I just mentioned, is because of downside in the international law firms. Many of the lawyers from international law firms, they join the Hong Kong to the Hong Kong office of those Chinese firms. And so because they have some better talents and they bring the talents, documents, skills, clients with them. So many of them has become the Hong Kong office of these Chinese firms have better developments in the past few years. As you can see that most of the red Chinese firms, they benefit from the IPO boom in the past year. So they recruit a lot of lawyers to join the Hong Kong IPO team. And in fact, they have a very clear advantage because these red circle firms, they have very well-established office in Mainland and have many good clients. So if any of the good clients have want to do an IPO, then they can just refer to the Hong Kong office. Of course, if you talk about the biggest deal, they will still prefer to engage Davis Polk, Clifford Chance, Freshfields, etc. But for some mid-sized deal, they think it's okay to use the Hong Kong office of the red circle firms. So this explains the trend why the Hong Kong office of Chinese firms, they start picking up their business, and many of them are now already quite well developed. Say, for example, King & Wood Medicine, there are over 200 lawyers in Hong Kong. It's actually the biggest office in Hong Kong, even bigger than Deacon's, etc. As for like firms like Fangda or Zhonglen, they have like around 100 lawyers in Hong Kong, which means that it's much bigger than some of the international firms or some of the biggest Hong Kong law firms. And second, apart from opening an office in Hong Kong, they also start opening office overseas. As I mentioned, they already have a firm office in New York and Silicon Valley a long time ago. But it's very difficult for these Chinese firms, the overseas office Chinese firms, to compete with the local US or UK firm. They have lots of competitors there. So so strictly speaking, they are not as successful as what we think, but still it is a good contact points there. Say, for example, if Chinese law firms want to do outbound or the other way around, a foreign company want to do inbound, then it may be a good liaison points there. So they still provide some good value for the Chinese firms. And recently, some firms also continue to expand in other cities, like Singapore, I just mentioned. About 3 years ago, 2 to 3 years ago, Hang Kun started opening an office in Singapore, and founder followed 1 year later. And actually, I have followed Hang Kun to visit the Singapore office and also student office in the recent years. And I witnessed the growth, and I think it's a good attempt for them. It's not, of course, if you compare with the local office in China, it's not as big as, it's not as successful, but still it's a good attempt. I would be interested to know how they developed after several years. For pros and cons, I mentioned pros is that they provide a contact point, and they can also demonstrate to clients that they have global capacity. So, for example, if there's a wealthy man in China, he wants to immigrate to Singapore, and then one is good to demonstrate that I have a Singapore office, and for that wealthy man, he may think that in the future I may need some service in Singapore, and this actually may be of value to him. So I think there may be some value of this overseas office, but the cons is that many of the Chinese firms when sell office, they are not that successful. For example, in London, I've not heard of a Chinese firm that do very well in London. Although London is a major financial center, there should be some business there, but I have not heard of a Chinese firm which did very well in London. Next, I would like to talk about the new areas. From time to time in the past 20 years, there are lots of new areas coming up. This is because of the developing of the economy. There are some new business model. There's some new technology. And every time there's new business and new technology, we have new legislation. So this provides opportunities for the Chinese law firm to develop new area of business. As I mentioned, for example, antitrust is very popular like 10 to 15 years ago. At that time, the antitrust lawyers can earn a lot of money, but now there are antitrust team in every Chinese firm, so it's no longer a blue sea area. And TMT, as you know, many Chinese firms, they benefit from the growth of the TMT companies. And it's the past 20 years, we have Alibaba, Tencent, etc. So these provide lots of business for these Chinese companies. And from time to time, there's a new legislation relating to TMT. Especially in recent years, we often talk about data transfer, cross-border data transfer, cyber security, etc. These also provide some good business. As you know, there are many MNC companies, when they run business in China, they are very concerned about data privacy and whether they can transfer any data out of the border. And also outbound investment is what we call Chuhai, right? A lot of Chinese companies try to invest in some overseas countries, like in South America, in Brazil, in Middle East, even for Africa. Yeah, I myself has worked for a solar energy company before, so I also do a number of outbound investment at that time. So anyway, this we have to spot these new areas because there are you know, for many old traditional businesses already quite saturated. There are too many people doing the same type of areas. So from time to time, we have to explore this new area. And apart from new areas, sometimes even for some old traditional areas, we can also deep dive into it. What I mean deep dive is that, for example, if you talk about biomedical and pharmaceutical companies or the industry, we can also, there's also some special areas about this pharmaceutical company for some special type of drugs, special type of medical treatment, etc. If you have a deep analysis or deep knowledge expertise in this area, it also can make you distinguished from other practitioners. So the key point is that, yes, when we talk of new emerging areas, you think what areas you can focus on. This area must be something different from what other people is doing. What's your distinction point? How you can distinguish from others? Is this a new area? Is this a area that are very deep that no other people can do it, etc. So that's why we have to think about these new emerging areas from time to time. Next, I will talk about the impact of technology. As you know, we are talking about AI every day. And in fact, you may have heard from some recent news that Baker McKenzie has laid off quite a number of administrative staff recently. This is because this type of task can be done by AI. And actually, law firms are paying more attention to the AI products. As you know, the more famous one are Harvey. I don't want to make any advertisement today, so I do not mention the name of these particular products. But you know, many of the firms, international firms or Chinese firms, they will hire some internal staff with some IT background to take care of these AI matters. But one thing important is that different law firms nowadays, they have different policies. I've heard some Chinese law, I've heard some international law firms that they say that they try not to use AI to draft prospectus, because when you input something into the AI, there may be the issue of confidentiality. You know, you input some confidential information of the clients into it, so they may not want to do so. But for some other international firm, Chinese firm, they think that it's okay. Yeah. Sometimes you will just, for example, you just hide the name of the clients, etc. So there's some firms permit the use of AI. But while AI is very powerful, we must be very prudent, as sometimes many of the information may not be correct. I sometimes would test the AI by inputting myself also. For example, I will input the question, who is Simon Mui? And then sometimes the information is wrong. Usually they will say, oh, Simon Mui is very famous in the legal community, but not every information is correct. Even about myself, not every information is correct. And next, that's why, because of the AI, the ring-making and networking value of senior lawyers is very important. You must think that what area or what aspect is that I can be not replaced by AI. I think one thing is your networking resources. For example, the AI do not know the people. And if you are a senior lawyer, you must have built a lot of network with your clients or your friends or alumni, etc. So this is your value. You bring in the resources, and so that's why ring-making and networking ability is important. Next, I will talk about the second part. what strategies for the future-ready legal profession? So we must prepare ourselves for the future. As we can see that in the past 20 years, lots of things have happened. And I guess that in the next 20 years, there are still a lot of things happening. So although the future is unknown, is not foreseeable, but still we try our best to prepare for ourselves. First of all, I can foresee that there will be fierce, even more stronger competitions among the law firms and lawyers. Because, as I mentioned, more people possess similar skills, similar knowledge. They compete in the market for the similar business. And actually, for the in-house department, many of them, they have KPI from the company every year is to cut the budget. For example, when I work as a general counsel for a company before, my KPI every year is to cut the budget by approximately 20%. So that's why in the future, there will be fewer and fewer legal budget. Especially with the evolution of AI, the boss of the company may tell the legal department that, oh, you can just use the AI. You don't need to spend so much money for the external lawyers. So many of the works and tasks will be completed by AI or to be absorbed internally. They may recruit more in-house lawyers, but they would reduce the demand for external lawyers. So that's why the legal environments in the future decades will be very tough. So this is what we generally call 内卷 or 价格战. As you know, especially in the past 2 years, the economy is not as good as we think. And many of the Chinese law firms, they're willing to take the business for lower cost. And if this, and during a pitch, for example, if this Chinese law firms A pitch like 1 million, the other one will will pitch 500,000, and then they will just lower the price until they get the business. So what should we do? First of all, we should keep on learning new things. Even today, in this seminar, there are a number of practicing lawyers, but still actually everyone continue to learn new things every day. This includes technology. For example, we have to see the developments of AI, or even some new business model. Like, for example, for 10 years ago, when Web3 or blockchain first come out, we think that it's very odd. It's a very odd business. But nowadays, many people buy crypto. Many people will have some sorts of relation or interaction with Web3. So we have to be more flexible and have an open attitude towards this kind of new models and technology. Even at different stages of life, even when you are young, no matter you're in 20s, 30s, 40s, even if you're closer to retirement, you still have to learn new things. And by learning new things, then you may think about, is there any new business opportunities? Is there anything relating to my new business? For example, I know that there are some Chinese firms, some partners or lawyers, they try to explore business in blockchain. So this also provides some kind of new business opportunity for them. And next is continue to network, get more information. As I mentioned, AI cannot do the networking, so you have to do it for yourself. Let's talk to more people. When I say people, there can be different type of people. It can be lawyers. For example, you work in law firm A. You talk to a lawyer from law firm B. It's not necessary, of course, you cannot get business from that lawyer B, but it's good to know what they are doing, what type of business they focus on. So this is something important. And also, if you're a young lawyer, if you talk to lawyers of another law firm, you will get some market news, and you will get some job opportunities. For example, you know that someone left the firm for LLM, and then there's come a vacancy arise, and then you will know that this may be an opportunity for you. And third is rank making. We are not sales, we are not salesmen, but it's good to have some kind of marketing and sales ability, because work as a lawyer is actually also a business. Sometimes you have to promote your business. You have to see how you can convert your skills to business to earn money. So you have to locate your resources among you. So sometimes when you join some clubs or some sanhui or some organizations, you pay attention to the people around you to see how you can convert them. And fourth, always be flexible. Nowadays, because the business model totally changed, you have to be more flexible about what type of jobs. For example, in the past, you think that, oh, I must go to the biggest law firm, but nowadays it's no longer a must. For example, if there's a startup, but you see that there are great potential of that startup, it may still be a good opportunity for you. And sometimes some people do not do a full-time job. They may do several part-time jobs, and then they combine them together to be a full-time job. And some people even do freelance, etc. For locations, it's good to be flexible locations if there are good opportunities. And if it's located in other cities, but why not give a try if you're still young? And also the area of practice, sometimes it may not be the area of practice you most interested about, but sometimes you can still just try doing it. Maybe some years later, you will find that, oh, this is actually a very, very good business. At that time, you don't realize it. But after a few years, you will realize that it's a good business. I think this is my last slide. Yeah, and if you have not subscribed to my WeChat account, you can subscribe to it. Oh, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Simon, for your very insightful and structured presentation. Thanks so much. We still have some time for Q&A. So now let's open the floor for discussion. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, please feel free to raise your hands. But when participating in this session, please disclose your identity and affiliation. Thanks so much. Yes.
Thank you. I am a prospective student in IP and technology law, and I think there is an advantage of me because I have a very determined area of practice after graduation, that is entertainment law and IP law. But it may be also a disadvantage because in some international law firms, such a department are very small, and so if I want to do such cases, maybe some most practical ways to go back to mainland China and found such a film. But I'm worried about it's maybe make me hard to get touch to the international legal market. So do you have some advice for me? Thank you.
Do you have any technical background, like science or technology?
Oh, yes, this is a problem I'm worried about. So I do with IP, but my IP is more, it's soft IP, like copyright, trademark, and competition law. I try to deal with some patent law cases, but I think it is too difficult for me because I'm not studying science in high school.
Yeah. I think many people will face a similar problem. And actually, as you just mentioned, many people start with soft IP first because they do not have technical background, soft IP like copyrights or trademarks, etc. But once you use this as your starting point, for example, if you, after LLM, you want to stay in Hong Kong, you have the chance to get into some good IP teams of international firms like Baker McKenzie. Baker McKenzie have a good IP team. You can start with I think it's okay for you to start with the trademarks and the copyrights first. But once you get to it, you later you'll get more familiar with the team, and you can indicate or express your interest to them that you are also interested in like patents, etc., and see whether there are such opportunity. Yeah, but the key point is that you must be able to get into it first. Yeah, and of course, I agree that if you return to mainland China, there are more opportunities. There are more opportunities because in Hong Kong, there are not too many firms practicing IP. But still, if you can get into some good teams in Hong Kong, it's not bad for you to work for 2 to 3 years first, because experience at like Baker McKenzie and Jones is also very precious for your future career.
Okay, thank you for your answer.
Hi, I'm Ivy. I'm a domestic lawyer from Shenzhen, and I've worked for Kingwood Medicines for like 5 years. Basically, my practical area is tax. So I have a 2 quick questions. Because last year I started up my own law firm, and I found it's very difficult to do this kind of business, because if I only practice like tax, it's almost impossible to have my own clients. I have to cooperate with other lawyers. So my quick question is, if my practical area is so limited, it's so difficult. So is it a good option to kind of have a more wide area to practice? And my second question is about the overseas projects, because basically the clients have more and more overseas projects. And I found our like Chinese attorney, the role is kind of embarrassed in such projects, because basically the legal issues and tax issues are about some foreign laws. So basically we have to search for a specific attorney in such jurisdiction. And our work is very limited. Basically, we just interpret some law rules for our clients and try to search for the best option for our clients. So how to add more value in our job under such overseas projects? That's my question. Thank you.
Both are very good questions. For the first one, yeah, admittedly, tax is more limited and restrictive practice, but still, yeah, I think it's good for you to explore more new business. For example, as you practice tax, you'll come across of lots of clients, like corporate clients, and they also have some other like general corporate need, for example, M&A, general compliance, etc. So as you know, we always say that the most important thing, or the first thing, is to get the clients first. But to get the clients, you understand the need. And for some general corporate matters, it's not that difficult, right? Just for example, some general company law, general investment, general M&A compliance, etc. So it's good to through tax as a starting point to get all those clients. And once you get those clients, you understand the need and do more business. And as you know, as you work in big law firms before, right? Like King and Wood, so you understand the advantage of having cross referral, right? For example, tax is a limited practice, so at that time you may rely on a lot of cross referral from other like M&A team, corporate team, etc. So once your firms get bigger, yeah, it's good for you to attract some other lawyers to come in and to do more cross referrals. Yeah, I think cross referrals is very important because tax is limited, right? And second, for like your role in outbound investment. Yes, I think yeah, I think it is also problems faced by many Chinese firms, right? Because the role is limited. The role is limited. For example, if our investment, most of the law we are talking about foreign law, not Chinese firms, not Chinese law, but still, yeah, as you practice tax, so you will have, I guess, you have also some other knowledge relating to finance, accounting, etc. So I think you can give some general advice. Anyway, for our investment, the client is yours. It's a Chinese client, so you have a closer relationship with them. Compare with the foreign law firm. So again, you understand the need, including the business need, general consulting need. And then you can do everything apart from signing a foreign legal opinion. You basically can do all sorts of things, yeah, even giving them some preliminary advice, yeah, on some foreign law, although you cannot officially sign the legal opinion. But still, I think the clients will appreciate your value. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Yes, Leo. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for a thorough introduction of the current trends and transformation in the legal market of Hong Kong and mainland China. I have two questions. The first question is kind of related to my current career applying, because my current goal is to become a dispute resolution lawyer, at least, after I complete my PCLL. But I don't want to, exclude the possibility of becoming a, in-house counsel in the future. So my concern is that, because some of my friends, they advise me that if once I decided to pursue the career, like, specialize in the area of arbitration and litigation, it is pretty hard to, switch to the in-house role, because the corporate transaction, kind of lawyer might be easier to, switch to the in-house positions. So my concern is that should I be more flexible in the very beginning of my career, like to, to simultaneously focus on the contentious and non-contentious work, or should I, just follow my, current plan just to, specialize in the DR sector in the very beginning? And second question is about, it's a general question, open questions about, job hunting, because as you mentioned, nowadays the job market is pretty, fierce competition, right? And it's pretty hard for the PCLL student, for the JD student to find a TC training contract or for, Mexican contract even. So I'm just wondering, can you offer some suggestions for the JD and LB student who's planning to apply the training contracts in the futures? Thank you so much.
Okay. For the first question, not necessarily that you must do corporate works before you shift to in-house counsel. Actually, well, many of the big companies like the TMT companies, they actually need quite a number of in-house counsels who with dispute resolution background. Because, there's sometimes a lot of overseas dispute resolution and a lot of like regulatory and investigation, etc. They actually desperately need counsel with lawyer with dispute resolution or regulatory compliance background. So I think if you think about the possibility of working as a in-house counsel, it's not necessary that you must do corporate works. As a young lawyer, you cannot do all areas. You must pick some of them. You pick like M&A, capital markets, dispute, etc. You can just focus on one day you want to do. But I would just say that if you do this resolution, it's not saying that you will definitely not find an in-house job. I think that you can. There's still a lot of opportunities open for you in the in-house market. Yeah. For finding a TC, yes, the competition is very big nowadays, but it's getting better. This year, because of the IPO boom, so many firms, for example, the Hong Kong office of Chinese firms, they recruit more trainee solicitors. Yeah, that's what, because they can do some junior works like do due diligence, verification, or some other more basic task. Yeah. So it's difficult to say whether they would retain the trainee after 2 years, but still anyway, it's a good stepping stone. So once you becomes a trainee solicitor of these firms, even they do not retain you, these Chinese firms are also well-known, well-recognized market. You can also use it as a stepping stone to find some other jobs. In terms of how you can get this type of opportunity or this TC, there's no secrets. First of all, you have a good GPA, a good academic result. That's important. But networking is also important, because sometimes for some Chinese firms, especially, they may not have a very, very strict HR procedure. Yeah, some of them have it, and some of them do not have a strict procedure. Well, say they do not have strict procedure, it means sometimes if you have a good relationship with a particular partner, and then the partner want to recruit you, and then they recommend you to get into the firm. Of course, you still have to go through some interviews, etc. But if you are strongly supported or backed up by a partner, usually the HR will not say no. Yeah, because the partner is more powerful than the HR, right? So the vaccine networking is not necessarily to know the partner, but sometimes you have some alumni there in the team, and then through them, you know that they are now have very good business, they're very busy, so the partner desperately wants a junior. In this case, there would be a higher opportunity of recruiting a TC. Once you get the support of the partner, or somebody forward your resume to the HR, you will have a bigger opportunity. So in conclusion, networking is most important. Thank you.
Thanks so much. The discussion has been intensive, but as a moderator, I'm mindful of the time. I need to perform my duty properly to ensure that we do not overrun. Now it's 6:45, 15 minutes behind the schedule. I breached my duty. I apologize for that. So I need to officially conclude our today's session. So please join me in thanking Simon for his insightful talk. Thanks so much. Yeah. Thanks everyone for coming. Now is the perfect timing for dinner. Have a lovely evening. Thanks.